So good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Fiala. I'm a principal planner with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. We welcome you all this evening. We're very happy to have such a great crowd of Dedham residents and stakeholders. I'd like immediately to start with our Master Plan Committee co-chairs for the Designing Dedham 2030 planning effort and invite Jessica Porter and Sarah McDonald to kick us off with a welcome and introduction.
Thanks, Josh. We're mixing it up this evening, and I'm going to kick us off and turn it over to Jess. First of all, on behalf of Jessica and I and the entire Master Plan Committee, which you see listed on your screen, thank you for joining us. We continue to get really strong participation, albeit virtually, through this Master Plan process, and that is really critical to us. Just want to point out that this evening we're focusing on 3 topic areas in the master plan: housing, public health, and natural and cultural historic resources. And those are pieces that fit into a larger plan that is intended to guide the town's vision of its path forward. And so what you see in front of you is a robust committee that represents a variety of stakeholders, folks with different professional expertise, personal expertise, appointed to the committee to represent residents' interests and concerns very broadly. And so as we break out later this evening, some of these folks will be your meeting facilitators and note takers, and you'll get a chance to meet them more directly. Jess?
Great. Thanks, everyone. So I'll echo Sarah's thanks to the committee and also our MAPC team for helping guide us in this process. I wanted to just give you a little bit of context around the master plan and what it does. Sarah mentioned that it helps to guide decision-making. And so the master plan is something that we engage in every 10 years. We're looking forward and to kind of deciding what the blueprint for Dedham should be going into 2030. 10 years ago, we went through this process, and we made a lot of decisions through the master plan process that have since been implemented. So I just wanted to give you a sense of the kinds of things that have come out of our previous master plans. For instance, one was, many people are familiar, we have a facilities manager now who manages all of the town-owned buildings, the schools, as well as on the town side. That's a decision that came out of the master plan. The fact that we now have an arts overlay district in East Dedham is something that grew out of the master plan process last time. And you know, I could go point on a number of other things, but basically just you should know that these, the kinds of things we're discussing tonight are really important, and it's important to have your input because we want to make sure that as we make decisions going forward, we're doing that with the support of the community and according to the community's vision. I'm going to also just stress that the topics that we're talking about tonight, so housing, you know, the natural, cultural, and historic resources, and public health, are very important, not only to have you involved so that we can make sure that the master plan is reflecting your vision, but because also some of those topics, I think having you involved now helps us be more accountable to your vision later on. And so I think I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the housing recommendations of our 2009 master plan went largely unimplemented. And I think you'll hear a little bit tonight about, you know, how important housing is. It's probably a little bit even more of an urgent issue that we think about now, since we haven't really done all the things that we should have over the last 10 years. But I just would encourage you throughout tonight and then throughout the rest of our master plan process to really stay involved, because it is both your input right now as well as paying attention down the road that actually helps us achieve these goals. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you all, and please speak freely and help us create a great plan. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Jessica and Sarah, and welcome again, everyone. We're seeing the room fill up with residents and stakeholders now, so that's great. We had well over 100, so I think it was around 180 registrants for this event. So really kudos to the community and your participation in these efforts. So behind the Master Plan Committee is a really great team of MAPC staff members and planners that are helping to facilitate this process. You can see some of those on the screen now. We had presentations about economic development and transportation at our last community open house, and you can view those presentations online at the website for the project. And we have with us this evening Alex Kopelman, Courtney Lewis, and Elaine Zhang to present on our topics this evening. And then we have one more community open house scheduled for March to get through the remainder of the master plan topics and speak of the goals. So a little bit about our meeting this evening. This is a virtual workshop. It is recorded. You can refer back to it. It will be on the website as well. I believe it will also be broadcast through Dedham TV at a later date. We're keeping the participants muted just because we have a lot of effort, a lot of content to get through in this meeting, and need to hit our time markers pretty closely. But you will all get a chance to participate and be invited to talk with us in breakout rooms for each of the topic areas this evening. So you can, along the way, use the chat function to raise comments or questions. And then really, you can engage with us fully in those breakout sessions when we get to them. We'll also have a few polls that will start in just a minute. So the purpose of our event this evening is really to engage you, to introduce you to the process if you haven't yet been a part of it, and then to invite your feedback on our continuing work. Really, your feedback is guiding the direction that we had with the content of the master plan. And it's critically important that we hear from you all and build consensus as we develop the content of this work. And then we also want to provide some information to help you stay engaged as this process continues through 2021 up through the end of this year. So as I mentioned, we have a tight program, tightly packed. At 6:45, we're going to start in on housing. At 7:30, public health and livability. And at 8:15, we'll close out with natural, cultural, and historic resources with a brief break in between each one and breakout discussions for each one. Our committee has been guided by these values in the conversation. So we just ask you to also take a quick look at them and try to be mindful of what the committee has been using to guide respectful and productive conversations for the town. All of these topics are being composed together and thought about in terms of their interrelationships and their relation to an overarching vision for the town. And we're keeping track of all that massive amount of content and those coordinating features as we move along. We're building the content along through these processes and open houses, but also through your robust participation in previous parts of this process as well. So we had over 1,400 responses to a series of community surveys last spring and have been building this content on those efforts. So thank you again for your participation in those. And you will have more chances to participate as well. We're only about halfway through this process now. And we will be drafting more and more content as we move along. And these will not be the only community opportunities to weigh in on the content. So don't worry. We're at the goal level at this point, which is still pretty high level. And then underneath those goals, as we start to build consensus around them, we'll be working on strategies and actions which get more detailed along fulfilling those goals and the vision for the town. And I mentioned the third open house. That's on March 30th at 6:30, and we'll be covering land use, municipal facilities and services, and governance topics. So we invite you to register for that if you haven't already and participate with us there. And for all this information, we refer you to the project website, designingdedham2030.org. And you can view any of the committee presentations, download a wealth of information that we've posted there, and view topic summaries for each of these topic areas that we're discussing in the open houses that provide a little more detailed information and content. So before we get too much further in talking about the content and the focus of our meeting, we do want to understand a little bit better who is out there and who's present with us. It helps us a lot in terms of guiding the outreach and promotion of these events. And we would invite you to just respond to a few quick questions that will pop up on your screen momentarily. Let me just share this with you all. So if you wouldn't mind, take a look. You can add in the neighborhood that you live in, your age, your gender, race, how you learned about the meeting, and if you've participated in previous master plan meetings. So if you can get through those and then press submit, That would be very good. And then we collected the same information in the first open house and have been using it to see who's represented and who's not, and guiding efforts to try to make sure that the representation at these meetings and throughout this process does reflect the makeup of the community of Dedham. I'll leave this open for a couple more minutes. I haven't seen any responses filter back through yet, so hopefully you can all see it. All right, we'll just give it another minute or so. So if you can just answer those as they've popped up on the screen. And we have about 93 participants in the meeting now, so it's a great great attendance. All right, so I'm going to close the poll now so we can start in on Alex's housing presentation just on time.
Josh, just a note that we are getting some messages that the town's web calendar has this meeting still starting at 7. So we do understand people will be coming in as we've started some of the housing presentation. So folks do know this is recorded, and we will share afterwards as well in an attempt to keep folks as up to speed as possible. And if we could just recognize people will be coming in late and maybe give some additional context as we go into breakouts, that might be helpful.
Thank you, Sarah. That's good to know. And I actually maybe can delay just a couple minutes to maybe align those timelines a little bit, because I did not get any. I closed the poll, but I have 0 results, which hopefully is not a reflection of the participation. So I'm actually going to relaunch it because I don't think we have any data right now.
Josh, this is Christian. I am seeing poll results
okay.
With all the numbers.
Would you like to share them, Christian, since I do not see that?
It looks like somebody's actually sharing them right now, so I don't want to click.
Yeah, I'm sharing them.
Okay, great.
So if people can see those results, maybe hopefully you can. Yep, I just saw a couple thumbs up. So you can scroll through the results and see who is here, and then I will not relaunch the poll because that erases the data, and we will look at the data after the meeting, and I'll get a feel for what's going on there. So with that accomplished, so thank you all for participating in the poll. We will move right along, and apologies for the oversight on the town's meeting calendar, but this is recorded so people can catch up with this and get the rich information which Alex is about to share with us. So I'll pass the baton to Alex Koppelman, a housing planner at MAPC, to walk us through our first topic for the evening.
Thanks, Josh, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us. My name is Alex Koppelman. I'm a housing planner at MAPC, and I'm going to present you with the draft housing goals that we've prepared for your review and feedback tonight. These goals were developed by reviewing previous master plans and more recent studies like the Dedham housing study, which was finished in 2019, community surveys, and through our meetings with the Master Plan Steering Committee, which has done an excellent job of vetting this information. But tonight, we want to hear from you to see if we are on the right track with these goals and if they align with your lived experience and the knowledge of your community. We will make changes to these goals based on what you share with us tonight, so we're looking forward to your participation. The themes of these goals are to better align housing accessibility with housing need, create opportunity, and provide for better health and well-being. When we think about the future of housing in Dedham, we also need to think about the past. Dedham and communities across the Commonwealth and the country are segregated, reflecting clear disparities in wealth and income. Much of this has to do with housing discrimination and redlining, which was a practice that denied home loans to people of color. East Dedham and parts of Riverdale were redlined, and as a result, they have the lowest median income of all Dedham's neighborhoods. So when we think about accessibility, opportunity, and well-being, and creating those things through new housing policies, we need to think about the legacy of discriminatory housing policies and how it continues to impact us today. So we have 6 draft goals that we're going to share with you tonight. And there are many of them that we need to get through in a short period of time. So I'm going to move through them rather quickly, but I've pasted them in the chat for your review as I go through them. If you want to advance, Josh. The first goal is to support the creation of housing that tends to be more affordable in the marketplace. And when we say affordable, we mean cost no more than 30% of your income so that you can afford other necessities like food, transportation, healthcare, and the like. We call this naturally occurring affordable housing, or NOAH, which tends to be more affordable in the marketplace because of its size or age or other factors. So how do you get more naturally occurring affordable housing? Well, you need to create a greater variety of housing options. As you can see from this data, Dedham has a large abundance of single-family homes. 60% of the stock is single-family homes, and a fair share of larger apartment buildings at 14%. But what about duplexes, townhomes, and smaller multifamily buildings? This is called missing middle housing, and it's an issue for Dedham as it is with most suburban communities. But the town can support the creation of NOAH by allowing for more missing middle housing. And from the data, we know that there's a mismatch between Dedham's population and its housing stock. In 4 out of the town's 6 neighborhoods, there are more single-person households than one-bedroom housing units. These people need different housing options than the large single-family home. And in Dedham Village and West Dedham, there are more 2- and 4-person households than 2-bedroom and 4-bedroom housing units. Creating NOAH is important, but we also know that housing is just not always going to be affordable in the marketplace, especially in a high-cost area like Greater Boston. So our second draft housing goal is to create capital A affordable housing, which is required to cost no more than 30% of a household's income by a deed restriction. Households must be income eligible for deed restricted affordable housing, but often middle income households are eligible. Because even those making a decent wage are not able to afford housing in Dedham. If you look at the monthly wages chart, which was also reviewed at the last open house as a part of the economic development presentation, in all but one of the top 10 employment industries in town, a single person household would need to spend more than 30% of their income to pay the median rent for a 1-bedroom apartment of $2,000. And those working in healthcare, retail, and food services would spend more than half or all of their income to pay that median rent. Purchasing a home is even harder because of the large down payment required. And since the majority of Dedham's housing stock is made up of single-family homes, there aren't many options for those who don't have $75,000 or more saved up. What does Dedham's housing supply of affordable housing look like? Well, right now, for every household that's eligible to live in an affordable unit, there is 1 unit on the town's subsidized housing inventory. But the supply is likely fewer since market rate rental housing units in Dedham were built through 40B, many of them. And so those ones are counted on the SHI, even though they're market rate and not deed restricted affordable. So with a lack of affordable housing and the economic impacts of the pandemic, we believe there's a great need to protect vulnerable households from being displaced, which is our third draft housing goal. This chart shows the number of cost burden households, those who are spending more than 30% of their income on housing, by income level. Households that have less discretionary income are severely impacted by cost burden and vulnerable to displacement. So all of those households that are low income, very low income, extremely low income, and are also spending more than 30 or more than half of their income on housing, those are very vulnerable households. And there are roughly 2,200 of them in Dedham. And moving on to our fourth draft housing goal, we want to better align zoning regulations with what exists right now. In Dedham, 62% of parcels are smaller than the minimum lot size specified in the zoning regulations. This is because zoning was established after several of the town's neighborhoods had already been developed, which is the case in most communities. These parcels are considered non-conforming, meaning they will need additional board review to be developed or redeveloped. This can also make it challenging for a homeowner who might like to make an addition to their home to help them age in place, or another homeowner who'd like to add an accessory dwelling unit to earn a little extra income to help out with their cost burdens. So better aligning zoning can open up a range of different housing opportunities. It will also help alleviate issues of segregation. We discussed redlining at the beginning of this presentation. Well, even though redlining is an illegal practice now, most zoning regulations were written shortly after these discriminatory policies, and many of those zoning regulations are still on the books today. So updating them will create opportunity and foster greater racial equity. And our fourth draft housing goal is to guide mixed-use development to existing retail centers. At our last open house, we talked about areas of economic importance, which are shown here in the numbered black dots on this map. The majority of housing near these areas is single family, which are shown in the lightest shade of orange, which really dominates the map. Bringing different housing types to these areas will allow more people to easily walk or bike or take public transit to retail centers, and also make it easier for people who work in those areas to get there. As we know from our transportation presentation at the last open house, very few people walk, bike, or take transit to work. And allowing for more than just single unit housing in these retail areas will also increase the amount of housing that supports local businesses through spending power. If you can, say, do a 2-unit building or a small multi-family building or a vertical mixed-use building in these areas, you're going to bring in more households that can spend money to support those businesses. And the last final draft goal for housing is to create more awareness of housing challenges and alleviate misconceptions about affordable housing. Because we need public support if we're going to take action and make these changes. But to build that support, people really need to understand the issues and the facts. So tonight is a good start, and I want to thank you for tuning into the presentation. And I'll end here with a slide that shows all 6 of the goals, which are also pasted in the chat. I'll go ahead and do that again for you. And I believe now we're going to enter some breakout rooms so that you'll have an opportunity to weigh in on this and ask any questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Alex. And Carolina's going to drop us into our breakout rooms momentarily, and you'll be paired with a MAP staff member, a Town of Dedham staff member, and a master plan committee member or outreach working group member. So a lot of different participants will be guiding you through hearing from you, gathering your feedback.
So I just opened up the rooms and we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you, everybody. I hope everyone had some fruitful discussion. And I think public health is a really interesting topic to bring into a master planning process that isn't typically included. So I think Dedham has a really unique opportunity to really hone in on what is important to the town. And thanks everyone for joining. Great to see some faces. I'm gonna hand it back to Elaine to give us some reflections, and then we'll move on to the third topic. So Elaine.
Thank you, Carolina. I think in my group, we had some really great and lively discussions. I think the group really prioritized safety when walking, and just how the lack of sidewalks in Dedham really inhibits people's ability to get to their destinations. I think one thing that was highlighted that was missing within the goals or not explicitly addressed was alcohol and substance abuse and mental health. And just thinking about how in light of COVID, how those issues may have been exacerbated, and thinking specifically also more targeted mental health services for the youth population, as well as the older adult population. And I think the last thing I'll also highlight just the Dedham Health Department capabilities, and just in thinking about where that health department is going and sort of the services that they're going to continue to provide. So COVID testing was mentioned, the COVID vaccines, and future clinic plannings, and just thinking about how to ensure that they are reaching vulnerable populations, such as people living in the housing authority or living in senior housing.
Great, thank you, Elaine. And so we have on the screen at the moment the poll again. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your opinion, if you feel the set of goals that Elaine walked us through is a good set for the public health and livability for the town and the master plan, is it very close, close, neutral, not close, or way off? And you give you just a couple more seconds to click that box, and then I'll end the poll and share it back to you all. All right, so I'm ending it and sharing it now. So you should be able to see on your screen the results of that poll. So looks like 41% thought it was close. That looks to be the biggest group, followed by 28% who were neutral on the set. And then 14%, or I mean 20%, excuse me, 14 respondents thought it was very close, followed by 10% who thought it was not close, and 1% who thought it was way off. So thank you for providing that feedback. That really helps guide us in terms of advancing the set of goals for public health and livability, and responding to the great discussion we just had in each of the groups. So we're just to give you insight to that, we compile all of the notes. Everyone who is facilitating a group, we compile all of those notes together, and then we'll be sharing them back amongst our team and thinking about ways to improve and make more responsive the goals for each topic. So with that, let's take another little stretch break and round of applause to all of you for making it through 2 out of the 3 topics. We've got one more, so please hold on with us. We've got saved the best for last, natural, cultural, and historic resources. And let's take a break and let Michelle walk us through another raffle prize giveaway.
Thank you so much, Josh. So I will go ahead and share. So we have 2 gift cards for this round, one for the Blue Bunny books and toys, and the other one for bamboo. So with another drum roll, I'm gonna pick who the winner is for this gift card. So Erin Bowles Welsh, congratulations. You get a gift card to the Blue Bunny books and toys. Again, I will send you a message, congratulations, just so we can get that gift card to you. For our next gift card, it will be a $25 gift card to Bamboo. So again, another drum roll, really exciting. I always love to see the wheel go around to see who will wind up going to. So with our next gift card, and I am so sorry for mispronouncing your name, Navra Rai. I will send you a message also, again, just letting you know about your gift card and how we can best send it to you. Thank you so much. And with that, I will pass it right on over to Courtney.
Great. I'm actually going to intervene a moment because, believe it or not, we're a little bit ahead of schedule right now, and we advertised the natural, cultural, and historic resources section would start at 8:15 for folks. So I'm filling some of that time right now, just to speak a little bit about how thankful we are that you're all participating with us, and then so we can have Courtney start a little closer to 8:15, so people who join us just for that topic aren't upset by joining late. So as we get closer here, let me share my screen and we will give you the third and final topic for this evening. And
Josh, can I just fill a minute?
Yes,
Since
please.
we have a captive audience, given that we were just talking about, connectivity, sidewalks, bike paths, et cetera, and we're about to talk about natural resources. I'm going to put a link in the chat, but for anyone who hasn't already filled it out, the town is collaborating with Boston thanks to a grant that our state senator and state rep, Mike Welsh and Paul McMurtry respectively have gotten us to study the Route 1 corridor. So if you could look for that link, and if you haven't done it, fill out a survey. We're looking at how to reimagine the Route 1 corridor from Boston to the Marine Rotary. And since you're all excited and enthusiastic about planning, and now that you know what the built environment means, we're hoping that you would also participate in that. So it's not directly a master plan project, but it would be super helpful. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Jessica. That was a much more effective use of our minutes.
I take advantage of captive audiences when I have them. Yeah.
Josh, there's also one question in the chat that might be good to address very briefly, which is, could you say a word how goals get turned into strategies? Because this came up a little bit in my last discussion too.
Yes, so we're at the goal level, which is a little bit higher level, and then we view the strategies as adding detail to those goals and really giving them more operative actions. So each of the strategies will then be the hook which we apply specific actions to for each of our goals. So what we imagine is the goal being a little bit of an umbrella, and underneath that are several strategies which we think will point us to achieving that goal. And then each of those strategies will be coupled with actions, which will have responsibilities, timeframes, and potential funding sources. So each of those components of varying specificity in the master plan give us confidence that we'll actually get some movement on each of these overarching goals. So as we hopefully build consensus around the goals through these conversations and meetings, we can dive into more specific strategies with a little more confidence, knowing that we're actually, have heard your feedback at that high level and then can move in the direction of being more specific. So with that, we're right at 8:15 now. So thank you all for bearing with us on that. And I will hand it off to Courtney Lewis to walk us through natural, cultural, and historic resources.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Courtney Lewis, and I will be presenting some of the draft goals that we have developed for natural, cultural, and historic resources. Next slide. So we came up with 6 goals for this topic area. Next slide. So taking a look at goal 1, which is continue strong stewardship of natural, cultural, and historic resources. The strength of Dedham's existing protected resources is a testament to a strong legacy of stewardship. Next slide. The number of plans and studies carried out over the years demonstrates the town's commitment to conserving, protecting, and improving Dedham's natural, cultural, and historic resources, and the appreciation that residents have for the place that they call home. Current assets should continue to be cared for while integrating new assets through the documentation of resources, responding to evolving needs of the community, and expanding historic narratives. Next slide. the recent efforts carried out by volunteers to rename a passive park in honor of William Good, a Civil War veteran who escaped slavery and later settled in Dedham, is a perfect example of this. Next slide. Dedham's natural, cultural, and historic resources should be managed in an integrated and holistic manner. Next slide. So zooming out and looking at the big picture, it's really important to explore the connections and the shared benefits so that you can really look at the best way that these resources can have a collective impact. Next slide. Goal 2, expand a sense of inclusion and welcoming for all resources. All resources should feel welcoming and inclusive for any member of the Dedham community. Both physical assets and programs should be designed to serve a diverse community and enable residents to participate in and take advantage of all that Dedham has to offer. Each experience and amenity should feel inclusive and welcoming for any resident, whether longstanding or new. Next slide. Hundreds of Dedhamites shared what was most important to them about their community, and these values are what help inform the vision for the plan. Many of you said that Dedham should be a more inclusive and welcoming place to live and work. Next slide. There were also several survey responses where people expressed feeling unheard, unwelcome, and excluded from both community spaces and important community conversations. Moving forward, it's extremely important to provide the tools and resources needed to empower all community members to live a healthy, safe, and prosperous life. Next slide. Goal 3, make resources integral to enhance livability. Utilize parks, recreation, open space, trails, greenways, and waterways to promote health and exercise, connect residents, foster social interaction, and increase community cohesion. Next slide. Oh, there's a slide missing. Parks and open space. Parks and open space can provide physical, social, and economic and environmental benefits to the community. This slide just showed how the missing slide just showed how these things benefit Dedham as a whole. The next point is bring historic and cultural resources into daily life with more relevance and accessibility for residents, visitors, and those with historic connections to the land. Creating welcoming, safe, and collaborative spaces for the community to express and share their cultural identity and formative experiences is very important. Many people noted in their survey responses that noted the history and continued presence of Native Americans has been long under-recognized in Dedham. Next slide. Also, in the previous presentation, my colleague Emma Bose highlighted the 55th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, the first officially recognized Black military unit in the United States, and the site of their training camp, Camp Meigs, which was once located near the Reedville Dedham border. Next slide. Goal 4, strengthen multimodal connections and access to resources. Improved walking, biking, and transit options is something that has come up over and over again in several of the topic area discussions. Dedham currently, sorry, next slide. Dedham currently has, sorry. One of the things, again, that was brought up in the community survey is making sure that Dedham was more accessible, both to parks and open spaces as well as community resources. Next slide. Dedham currently has a walk score of 40. So action items on for this goal should focus on increasing that number by improving walkability, building better and safer connections between neighborhoods, open spaces, and recreation areas, and providing greater access to historic and cultural amenities that draw residents and visitors in. Next slide. Goal 5, increase awareness and access for all residents. Increase arts and cultural awareness, access, and education for all Dedham residents. Build support for natural, historic, and cultural activities, including support for additional funding sources, for example, the Community Preservation Act. Next slide. Enhancing the design of physical spaces and programs to serve a more diverse community and enable residents to participate in and take advantage of all that Dedham has to offer. And by access, we not only mean removing physical barriers that provide greater public access for people of all ages and abilities, but also barriers that limit participation in arts and cultural programming, including economic and cultural barriers. Pedestrian and streetscape improvements, interpretive signage, wayfinding, and creative placemaking that boasts community pride and honors neighborhood history are just a few examples of how arts and culture and creativity can be infused into community planning and design. Next slide. Goal 6, integrate arts and culture with economic development. Communicate and promote the value and economic impact of arts and culture with support for the creative economy, public realm art installations, and programs to connect local artists and businesses. Next slide. I saw something saying that the slides were gone. Does everybody still see the slides?
I still see him.
Okay, good, thank you. In addition to natural and historic resources, arts and cultural organizations, civic and religious institutions, creative enterprises, and special events are all important cultural assets. They contribute to the town's character and they represent cultural life in Dedham. Next slide. Dedham's creative industries are dispersed throughout town and they are an important element of the local economy. They range in creative sectors from architecture and design to visual and performance art. Action items for this goal should focus on leveraging these assets to support economic growth and strengthen community. Next slide. And this is just a look of the overall goals again. So with that, I think we will hand things off to Carolina for excuse me, for breakout groups, breakout discussions.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. So we're going to go ahead and send you back into your breakout rooms. As a reminder, you're definitely going to have different folks and maybe some folks that you were with before. But as folks have been dropping in and out of the event, just want to give opportunity to have as even groups as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the groups, and we'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. I hope everyone had a good discussion. As folks are trickling in, would love to hear what people are hearing. And if you want to share in the chat, would love to do that. And I hope you'll stay for our closing remarks and our last raffle, obviously. But very curious to hear. I wish I could be in the rooms with you all. That's definitely. Looks like more folks are joining us. Hi, John. Thanks for being here. It's nice to see some different folks too. I hadn't seen before. It looks like we are coming back. So thank you so much. I hope that the conversation was fruitful and you got to thinking about some potential questions and possible solutions. I'm going to pass it back to Courtney for some closing remarks. And then, of course, you'll have to stick around for our raffle for closing out the night. So take it away, Courtney.
Sure, I'll just highlight like 3 things that we talked a lot about. There was a lot of discussion about in this breakout session, as well as previous breakout sessions, about the importance of providing accessibility and making sure that we have spaces that are walkable, that are welcoming, and that are connected. We also talked a lot about the importance of inclusion in spaces, as well as activities in town. And we also talked a lot about the importance of having formal and informal community gathering spaces. A lot of people spoke about how great it was to have these informal, how much they appreciated having these community gathering spaces during this time of COVID. They used the example of the town placing these picnic tables throughout the town and allowing people to connect and converse at a safe social distance, and how much that meant to just connect with their neighbors during times. So yeah, it was great discussion overall. A lot of good feedback.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. And thank you everyone for participating in this topic, but all the others as well, and spending your evening with us. So let me just end this poll. It looks like most everyone's gotten their response in, and share it back with you all so you can see the results. It looks like, again, the majority of people are falling in that close category. So this set of goals is close to what you're imagining for natural, cultural, and historic resources, 46%, followed by 24% feeling neutral about it, and then 17% thinking they're very close, and then 8% thought they were not close, and 5% thought they were way off. So we will take all of that into consideration, along with the comments that we have down from the breakout discussions, and refine the natural, cultural, historic resources goals. And then, of course, hopefully advancing with confidence with these conversations with you all as we move into more detailed strategies and actions to support these goals. So with that, let's, I know you've all been hanging on for the last raffle giveaway, so let's hand it off to Michelle for that.
Thank you so much, Josh. And again, thank you everyone for your time, for your patience tonight. So we will go right in. So the raffle for this round is going to be for East Dedham Builder Supply, as well as Dedham Diner. So again, we're going to give it another drum roll. See who our winner is for tonight. This is a pretty exciting part of this meeting. So Patty Tobin, I will send you a message again, just letting you know that you won the East Dedham Builder Supply gift card, and we'll see what the best way is to get that to you. So another one, second round. So this is for the Dedham Diner. Again, another drum roll. I'm sorry if you can't hear my drum roll over here on my end. So the winner is Sarah Basu. I will send you again a message just seeing what the best way is to get in touch with you. Again, congratulations, both of you, and thank you so much. With that, I'll pass it right on over back to Josh Fiala.
Thank you, Michelle. So I just have a few final closing reminders just so that we can keep you all engaged with this process as we continue on. And let me just share that real quick. So we would love to have you all join us on the 30th of March, which we'll be talking about three final topics of the plan. So land use, municipal facilities and services, and governance. And you can see the times for each of those there. So feel free if you'd like to join us for the evening, if you did like you did this evening, or if you'd like to tune in for one of those specific topics, please do so at those times on the screen. You can register for the event as you did with this one, with the, excuse me, the small link you've got there, the bit.ly link, and just sign up with your email and you should be ready to go. These open houses have been mirroring conversations that we've had with the master plan committee to talk about the topics with them as we've moved along. You can watch any of those topics if you want a deeper dive into the conversation that led to the open house presentation. And we have one more of those occurring in February, the land use presentation. So if you're interested, feel free. They're all open to the public and you can tune into that and meet with us on, sorry, we actually updated that meeting because the 16th is school vacation week. So that's actually happening on the 23rd, February 23rd at 7 p.m. We'd love to have you join us for that. And again, all of these meeting times, meeting presentations, Zoom recordings, PDF downloads, all of those things can be found at designingdedham2030.org. And we invite you to take some time and look around on the website and also connect with us if you have a comment, thoughts. You can send emails to myself or Jeremy Rosenberger, your town planning director, and we'd be happy to take a look at any of the feedback that you provide us along the way. So with that, we look forward to the next time that we're together, either in March or moving along. And just a reminder as we close this process will continue through 2021. So we'll have additional opportunities for you all to weigh in as we develop strategies and actions underneath these goals. You'll get to see those and comment on them. And we look forward to bringing more information to you as this process continues. So another hearty thank you for all of you spending your evening with us and continuing what's really a remarkable string of participation by the town of Dedham in this process with record turnouts in meetings and survey responses and the like. So thank you again and have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, MAPC team.
Thanks for being here. Bye. Good to see everybody's face. Thanks. Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Eric. Thanks, Rachel. Bye-bye. Thank you.